Hey, we welcome you into the Gardener's Corner program, a Friday feature here on WKRX, WRXO, and TV channel 191. We're brought to you today by Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers, T.G. Brooks Company, and Denton Farm Park. Their Southeast Old Threshers reunion continues today and tomorrow through July the 4th. Log on to DentonFarmPark.com. A special presentation today from Miss Jennifer Brown, who is the Family Consumer Science Agent. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate our sponsors, and we hope you enjoy this edition of the Gardener's Corner program.
Welcome to the Gardener's Corner. I am Jennifer Brown, Family Consumer Science Agent with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service in Person and Granville counties. I hope that you are all ready for a wonderful 4th of July weekend and celebration. Hopefully you're doing something fun. But no matter what, we want to make sure that you are staying safe. And I'm specifically talking about food safety. We want to make sure that you are aware of certain things that you should be doing, especially during the summertime, which is prone for foodborne illnesses, in order to keep you and your family members safe. Therefore, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you can do either in your home or when you go to the grocery store, as well as things that you can do when you are cooking out and having a picnic or celebrating any kind of thing or event this summer. So, first things first, when you head out to the grocery store, first thing you want to make sure that you do, or that is recommended, is that you go and buy all your shelf-stable items first. And then the last thing you do is you go to the cold and freezer section to get your items last. You want to keep those cold items as cold as you can, so you wait until the very end. You also want to make sure that you go to the grocery store and then straight home. You shouldn't be going to the grocery store and then doing a couple of extra errands, because that's going to keep your food not safe, because it's going to be growing bacteria while it's sitting out, not being refrigerated. When you go to the grocery store and you're getting meat products, we recommend that you get one of these bags. These are available at either of the grocery stores, and this one is from Walmart. But no matter which store you go to, they're usually about this size, and you want to put your raw meats in one of these bags. Use as many bags as you need, but you want to keep your family food safe. And this is going to keep the meat, it's going to keep any of the juices safe and away from your fresh and ready to eat products. Hopefully your cashier knows to separate your raw and ready to eat foods. If you take one of the reusable grocery totes or bags with you, you want to make sure that you have two. One for, again, your raw products and one for your ready-to-eat products. But one of the things that I love about this bag from Walmart is it gives you other food safety information. It has the 4 steps that we kind of tell people about food safety, making sure that you're keeping clean, washing your hands. You're keeping things cold. Or hot, depending on what item it is, that you're not cross-contaminating. Again, you're separating your ready-to-eat and your raw products from each other. And that when you're cooking, you're doing it to the right minimum internal temperature, and that you are putting it in the refrigerator, putting up your leftovers as soon as you possibly can. So again, it's not sitting out and it's not growing bacteria. Also, it has a lovely thermometer over here that kind of gives you a rough idea about how you need to cook your foods. The temperatures that we typically tell people are 135, 145, 155, and 165. The ones on the bag might differ slightly because there's a difference between the USDA guidelines and the FDA guidelines. But basically, either one's going to keep you safe. To me, it's just easier to go up 10 degrees every time. So your hot items, like maybe you go and buy something hot from the grocery store, in the rotisserie chicken or something like that. Those hot items need to be at least 135. So if it's already pre-cooked and you're just kind of reheating it a little bit or just warming it up, or if you go to a buffet, those foods need to be kept at 135 degrees. They've been cooked to a higher temperature, but that's the warming temperature that you want to keep your food at. 165 is the high end. That is for your poultry products, because poultry are known for salmonella, and in order to kill salmonella, you have to cook your product to 165 degrees in order to kill that bacteria. Your steaks, your chops, your fish, those kinds of things are typically 145 degrees is what you need to cook them to again kill any of the bacteria that might be from those particular products. When you're looking at your ground beef, you want to cook it to 155 degrees. So you've got your steaks at 145, but when you take that steak, chop it up and grind it up, you're taking any of the bacteria that might be sitting on the top of that steak and you're mixing it all up. So that's why you have to cook the ground meat to a higher temperature of 155 to kill E. coli or any of those other illnesses that might be from that. But all of your turkey products, your poultry products, any of your poultry items is going to be 165. Also, when you are reheating leftovers, you don't know what it came into contact with in your refrigerator or maybe even while you were cooking or whatever. So you actually treat your leftovers as if it was poultry, and you reheat your leftovers to 165 degrees. Now, you might be using a food thermometer to test your food, but you probably haven't been testing your leftovers. Again, this is just a good rule of thumb, a way to stay food safe. There are a variety of different food thermometers out there. I prefer the digital ones. It has the probe that you stick into the meat. This one has just a small little tip right here. So all I have to do is stick this digital thermometer into my meat with this little piece right here, and it will give me an instant read, about 3 seconds maybe. It'll tell me what that temperature is. So I know what the temperature is supposed to be, but the only way to check to see if my food is done and fully cooked is by using a food thermometer. I know a lot of people have been looking at it and it's the color that the juices run, or if you touch it and it springs back, or if you cut it open if it's pink or something like that. We've done research, some of our food safety specialists at NC State have done research looking at some of our food, cooking a variety of different hamburgers, cooking chicken, and testing them with the thermometer. Some of the ones that were pink inside were actually cooked to the right temperature, where some of the ones who looked fully cooked, when we tested their temperature, they were not cooked enough, and they could have caused a foodborne illness or someone to get sick. So it's not just based upon the color. And I know that's what the restaurants will ask you. They'll say, oh, just a little pink inside. But they are testing with a thermometer. Not every single steak or chicken they cook, but they have to test at least one product from each batch. Now, one thing you also don't want to do is if you have say chicken nuggets or something, you don't want to stack them on top of each other and then stick the probe all the way through, like 3 of them. That's not going to give you an accurate temperature. You really just need to kind of maybe come in from the side if it's too thin for you to go. But that's why I get a thin tipped probe. They do have some that are not digital if you don't want to pop for those. These can be, anywhere from maybe $8 to $20. You can find them cheap. You can find them at Walmart and at Food Lion. They also have these that are bimetallic stemmed thermometer. So these usually have a little dimple right here. It's a little dot, and you have to stick the thermometer into the meat all the way up until that little dot in order for it to give you an accurate temperature. Well, if I have a hamburger or some thin piece of meat, this is not going to go into it. This is the same thing with chicken nuggets. Even if I'm stuck it from the side, it's still going to come out the other side, and it's not going to give you an accurate temperature. It might give you an average, which again is not something safe. So this is not going to give you an instant read because it's a dial. So you have to give it a second till it gets up to that temperature. But these are good because you can always calibrate these and check to see if these are still reading accurately. It has the instructions on the packet when you buy that, how to test your thermometer to make sure it's still accurate. Some of these, you have to just send it back to the manufacturer. These require a battery, since they are digital and require some electricity or some battery power. One of the sets that I recently got at our local Walmart here in Person County is a kitchen thermometer set, because it never hurts to have too many thermometers. So this one has the bimetallic stemmed thermometer right here. This also has one for your refrigerator and freezer. When I'm talking to you guys about the food that's in your refrigerator, I always am, concerned if your refrigerator is cool enough. Now, the new refrigerators typically have a thermostat on the outside, and it will tell you if this refrigerator is, below 41 degrees, or if it's 37 or something like that. But if you lose power, that little, reader is not going to work. You don't have any power to your screen. So it's not going to tell you. So when you call me and ask me, is my food still safe? I've lost power, it's been this many hours. I'm going to ask you, what's the highest temperature your refrigerator got? Because if you leave that door closed, it's going to be, your food's going to last longer. But if you're constantly opening it because you have kids, they're starving or whatever, then the temperature inside the refrigerator is going to increase quicker. So I recommend you getting a refrigerator thermometer. This, again, they're typically refrigerator, freezer. You can put it in either one. So I recommend that you have two, one for your refrigerator, one for your freezer. If you have a deep freeze, get one for that. Because I know a lot of people have their deep freeze outside in the garage or a little building or something like that, and you don't check it as often. So that's the thing I hear about most, is I went outside to my garage and I noticed my deep freeze came unplugged, shorted out, whatever, and they open it and it's either too late, or they just can't tell me what the temperature in it is. And our phrase here is always, when in doubt, throw it out. So if you're always welcome to call me at either extension office or email me asking food safety questions, but that's something I'm always going to tell you. When in doubt, throw it out. So you probably can make that decision yourself, but if you want to check, give us a call. This one right here, I have another type right here, is an oven dial thermometer. Sometimes I have people call and it just seems like my oven isn't getting up to temperature. It takes too long to cook, my Thanksgiving turkey, or to cook my meat in there, or roast veggies or something like that. It's a machine. It could be that it's shorting out. It could be there's something wrong with the heating element. So having that thermometer that you kind of just hang inside your oven, so that you can make sure that if you're setting it to 350, is it really 350 in your oven? And that will save you some time when you're cooking. So again, food thermometers are extremely important. You want to make sure that when you are using a food thermometer that you're keeping it clean. You're rinsing it off using some mild soap and water, or you can get a wipe and clean it off as well. And you want to do that every time you use it, because if I stick this in my chicken that I'm grilling this weekend, and I see that, again, chicken is supposed to be 165 degrees, but I see that it's only 155 degrees. I don't want to just put this down and then pick it up in a couple of minutes and stick it back in there, because my chicken might be fully cooked now, but I might still have salmonella on here from when I stuck it in my raw chicken. So making sure that you're wiping it, that you're keeping it clean. It's always just, something simple to do that's going to keep you and your family safe, especially if you have children or if you have older adults that you're feeding. It doesn't take as many, bacteria or particles to make someone sick. And the young and the older adults are the ones who have either maybe a more compromised immune system if they might have some kind of an illness, or again, it's just harder to bounce back if you have a weakened immune system or if you're still building your immune system. So keeping your food separate is important, as well as testing the temperature. And the only way you can test to see if your food is done is by using a food thermometer. So we're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
all happening today through Saturday, July the 4th. It's the 50th annual Southeast Old Threshers Reunion at Denton Farm Park in Denton, North Carolina. This is the largest antique tractor and engine show in the southeastern U.S. Log on to dentonfarmpark.com or call area code 336-859-2755. Denton Farm Park is the home of the Handy Dandy Railroad. The 50th annual show will feature John Deere. Attendees will be asked to wear a face mask. They will also be enjoying daily musical performances. The tractor pull, the lawn and garden pull. On Saturday, they will have the draft horse pull and the fireworks display. Petting zoo, pony rides, train rides, helicopter rides, lots of vendors and delicious food. All this taking place through this Saturday, July the 4th, in Denton, North Carolina. For more information, log on to dentonfarmpark.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Again, I am Jennifer Brown from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service here in Person and Granville County, and we are talking about food safety. I know a lot of you guys are having your cookouts, or you're going to start having summer barbecues or whatever as we head into the warmer months, and we want to make sure that you are staying food safe. So before our break, we heard about food thermometers, and we kind of talked a little bit about some of the basic ones. I do have a couple of other ones that I'd like to show you. Again, just having a food thermometer, you don't have to have as many as I have, because some of the ones that I have are just for instruction when I'm teaching a food safety class to the individuals who work in the restaurant or food establishments. So you can have a thermometer, again, with just a small little tip. You can have one that you have to stick it all the way in here to test your food. Or you have some that, this one's actually called a hamburger thermometer. That's actually what it says right here. And it has a very tiny little tip on the end, because typically our hamburgers aren't too thick. So you can't stick this one in there, since you've got to stick it all the way up to here, but this one just has a little thin tip. So this is something also, it's not going to make that big of a dent in your hamburger, so this is something that sometimes restaurants will use if all they do is cooking hamburgers. You don't have to test every single one, just kind of if you put them all there on the grill at the same time, they're going to be relatively about the same temperature as long as they're the same thickness. So just testing, even just one per batch is good. This is what's known as a infrared thermometer. So this is something that, again, I may not be able to stick a probe in it, but I just want to kind of push my button and point it at it, and it will give me a digital readout of what that is. So sometimes I will do this with maybe a turkey that I'm cooking for Thanksgiving. So I just open the oven. I don't want to have to take it out. I'm not going to be able to stick this probe into the center of that turkey, so it's not going to give me an accurate readout. But I can point this at that, and it will give me, kind of a surface temperature, so I can know how cooked the meat is or the turkey is. So these are helpful if you're cooking maybe those big chunks of meat and you can't get your probe all the way in. There are some probes that you would stick into soups or stews as well to make sure that they're the right temperature. Those typically have kind of a long cord, and you just kind of stick this probe in it, and I have the reader in my hand. So you'll see different ones out there, but again, just a simple digital one, or even the bimetallic stemmed thermometer with the dial on it. Either one of these are fine. These are going to be cheaper. You can typically find either one at your local grocery store, or as I mentioned before the break, this is one set that I found at Walmart that has the refrigerator, freezer thermometer, and a dial thermometer there. One of the reasons we want to talk about the thermometers is I keep mentioning the growth of bacteria. And it's not something fun to necessarily talk about, but we want you to understand it, that if you are going to the grocery store and then you're running other errands, that food is sitting in your car. If you're having a cookout and you've cooked everything and set it out at the table, or even at Thanksgiving, and then you go away and you play in the pool or you watch the football game or whatever you're doing, your leftovers are just sitting there. And the hot food is getting cold, the cold food is getting hot, and it's getting into that middle temperature zone. We call it the temperature danger zone because, as I mentioned before, you want to keep your hot foods hot, your cold foods cold. And the only way to do that is put the leftovers up. So that's what I typically try to do. Everybody come get your food, and then I'm going to start packing it up. If you want seconds, please go help yourself. If you're eating outside, it's very important to at least have tops and covers for these things to keep away bugs. It doesn't take long for a fly to land on your food. And again, even if you don't want to hear it, when a fly lands on your food, what they do is they actually get sick on your food and then eat it and kind of regurgitate it up. So again, it sounds like nothing you want to hear about, but that's what they do. That's what flies and other bugs do, and you don't want to be eating that because they've contaminated it, and the flies have so much bacteria on them and in them that you don't want to be consuming that. So keeping flies away or keeping any bugs away is important, but keeping your cold food cold. And the reason why is your food typically is going to have some bacteria. So I've got a jar with just some light coffee beans or little black beans in here. And this is what roundabout average kind of bacteria might be on your food, okay? Just naturally or from some different things. By leaving it just sitting out or sitting in your car for 20 minutes, it doubles. So it only takes 20 minutes to double the amount of bacteria. Well, if it's been another 20 minutes, it's doubled again. And then another 20 minutes, and it's doubled to a whole jar of bacteria. You only need one germ particle to make you sick and to make you really sick. So there's a big difference between this, when we started out at 0 and got to an hour later. So that's why we don't want your food, even if it's just to minimize the amount of time. Maybe you used to just leave it sitting out for hours. If we can just get you, hey, 20 minutes, go put it up. We recommend that your leftovers are put up at least within 2 hours. Okay, that is to keep it as safe as we possibly can. If you are having a cookout outside, that time frame actually goes down to 1 hour if it's really hot outside. Because again, your cold food is going to get much warmer, much quicker if you're in kind of the 90-degree temperature weather. So making sure you can get your leftovers put up. But again, that's even for Thanksgiving. I would teach food safety classes, and I would have people talk to me about how their grandmother, when she served Thanksgiving, she'd serve it, everybody eat, they go away, and she would just kind of take an old bed sheet and just kind of cover the tables. Again, preventing maybe flies or, any dust particles or whatever from landing on the food. And everybody would hang out for the rest of the day, and then at dinner time, she would just take the bed sheet off and say, dinner's served. And so that food was sitting out all day. So I have people ask me, about things like that or tell me stories. And, I remind them, well, times have changed. Even just looking at how technology has changed just in the last 10 or even 20 years. Things have changed. Food safety and science have changed since your grandmother used to do that. Or since we thought it was okay to do that. Your grandmother may still be doing stuff like that. But now we know more about food safety. Unfortunately, a lot of people have had to get sick, and some people have died. We also look at, the average lifespan. We live longer now because we know don't do this. We know that these were the things that were making people sick, or we know that, older adults and even younger children are more susceptible to having more difficulties recovering from or dealing with the effects of a foodborne illness. So doing basic things like that is going to help you, but if you're not going to use a thermometer and you're still going to leave your leftovers sitting out like you always do, again, let me leave you with the 4 basic food safety tips. And I have a handout that I can mail to you or provide to you if you are interested. Anything that you need from our extension office, you can call the Person County Extension Office at 336-599-1195. Or in Granville at 919-603-1350. So the first step for food safety basics for anybody and everybody is just clean, okay? Clean your hands, which is always important whether you're dealing with food or just, going out in public. So washing your hands with soapy water for at least 20 seconds before and after handling food. Or if you're doing other things. I know a lot of people, you might be using your phone if you're in the kitchen looking up a recipe. Your phone is very dirty. You take that everywhere. So if you've touched your phone, making sure you're washing your hands. It's good to use gloves if you're preparing food for other people. Maybe if it's just me and my family, I'm not concerned. But if I know that I'm preparing it for a group of people, I'm going to wash my hands first, then I'm going to use gloves. But I'm going to be very vigilant about gloves. We have people who are wearing gloves, out and about now because of coronavirus, and everything you touch might have germs. And if you're never changing your gloves, you're taking those germs from one place to the next. So making sure that you're not doing that. Making sure that you clean your cutting boards, that you clean your utensils. Again, if you need to cut up your raw chicken and go ahead and start cooking that, and then you want to prepare your salad, and so you need to cut up some lettuce and tomatoes, don't use the same cutting board as you cut the chicken, or at least clean it in between. I have different colored cutting boards here at the office as well as at my home. So I'll use the yellow one for my chicken because poultry's kind of yellowish. So I'll do that. When I am using my vegetables, a lot of them are green and leafy, I'll grab the green one. And then when I am doing red meat, I'll grab the red one. So I know that I'm keeping my food separate from each other. And you can, you don't have to do this whatsoever. They have small, they have thin plastic ones too that are color coordinated. These actually are really cool because they have the temperature on the top here about what the food needs to be cooked to, since we've talked about the importance of cooking your food to the right temperature. But cleaning your workspace. So recently, about a year or so ago, we had a recall on eggs because some eggs were found to have salmonella. Well, eggs naturally have salmonella just like your poultry products do. But the reason our concern was a little bit higher is because all eggs could have salmonella. We knew that these eggs had salmonella. So our concern was higher because we knew that these had a higher risk of making people sick because we could confirm that these had salmonella. And so they did a recall of eggs. The eggs you had were perfectly fine for you to cook and eat. But the reason there was the recall is because we wanted to keep people as safe as possible. Now, if you fully cooked your eggs and you cleaned up your workspace and washed your hands, even if the eggs that you had salmonella, it didn't matter because you cleaned everything and you cooked your eggs fully. Now, we have some people that eat their eggs runny or sunny side up or whatever. That egg is not cooked. It's not fully cooked. So any salmonella that could be in it is going to be in you. So we didn't want people eating eggs that we knew had salmonella and eating them raw. Or if you were making a cake with those eggs, again, you're going to bake the cake. So there's not going to be any salmonella in your cake. But if you were cracking raw eggs, you might spill some on your counter. And if you don't clean up well enough, then you're opening yourself up to foodborne illness and getting salmonella. So that's why we recalled those eggs. But next time that happens again, if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you're cleaning up your space, if you are cooking your food to the minimum internal temperature that your food's supposed to be, even if that has some kind of a foodborne illness, you can severely decrease your risk of getting it by just doing the things correctly. So making sure that you're cleaning, that you're storing any of those leftovers appropriately, and that you eat those leftovers. We recommend 4 days. We kind of have a theme. It's called 4-day throwaway, because it just kind of rhymes and it's easier for people to remember. Is to eat your leftovers within 4 days. If not, throw it away. Now, food safety wise, officially, it's good for 7 days. That's what we teach the restaurants, is that your food is safe for 7 days. That's why we make the restaurants label the food. When did you make that macaroni salad? Or when did you make that chicken? Because they have 7 days before they have to use it or lose it. But we don't want to tell the consumers that. We tell them 4 days because we know consumers. You're going to hold on to it a little bit longer. You know, if I say, oh, you can do this for 4 days, well, what's wrong with 5? And then 5 becomes 6, and then 6, 7, you know, whatever. So we typically tell consumers 4 days. Also, it could just be a quality thing. The longer you keep those leftovers, it's not going to taste as fresh. And so, but there is a difference between food safety and food quality, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So we're going to take another quick break and hear from one of our sponsors, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the 4 food safety basic tips.
This month of July, 2 things are important to a lot of us here in Person County. Number 1 is getting those delicious vegetables and pickles put up for the winter weather, whether you grew them or bought them at one of the farmers markets. T.G. Brooks Company has your canning jars in half pints, quarts, half gallons, and they have pressure cookers. In fact, all your canning supplies. They have stone jars for pickling. The second thing is keeping everything green this time of the year. T.G. Brooks Company can handle all kinds of watering needs. First of all, they have sprinklers, water hose sprayers, and water hose parts. They have irrigating equipment. T.G. Brooks Company also has your piping for irrigating. They have gas-powered pumps. A reminder, T.G. Brooks Company has Bartlett Animal Feeds, and they have dog fences and famous Pride dog food by the bag. Also, it's time to beautify your property while you're outdoors. They offer so many kinds of mulch in bulk form or bagged. You can get your mulch by the large scoop. They have delivery service available too. Bring your truck, trailer, and they'll load it up for you. When it comes to yard tools, they have those too. Diggers, hoes, choppers, everything you need to beautify and work in the yard. Oh, yes, sir. For homemade ice cream, make sure you get some homemade ice cream made up for these hot days. Enjoy your summer with the trip often to T.G. Brooks Company. They have served the farmer, homeowner, and landscaper in the area since 1936.
Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers is located 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. Open for business Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturdays 9 till 1. Call 919-693-4626, toll free 800-221-9267. Al, Hillary, and Will is there to serve you with all of your golf car needs, new and pre-owned. They also have a large selection of equipment trailers and utility trailers. Also there at Sandling Golf Cars, you will find Wilmington grills. Are you in need of repairs or Trojan batteries? See Dennis and Bradley at Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers, 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. Call 919-693-4626 or toll free 800-221-9267. That's Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers, 613 Lewis Street in Oxford.
Everybody. So the first one that we already discussed was just clean. Clean your hands, clean your surface, clean your utensils and everything that you use. The second one is to chill. Okay, just relax. Now, chill means keep it cold. You know, if you have food that is supposed to be cold, you need to keep it cold. You need to keep it in that temperature. Also, it's talking about thawing. There are 4 proper methods of thawing your meat and thawing your food. Okay, first, if you have the time, this is the best one, put it in your refrigerator. Take it out of the freezer, put it in the refrigerator. It might take, 24 hours. It might just take, a couple hours, depending on the thickness of it and the size of it and what it is. You can also do it under running water in your sink. So again, you're going to, put it in the sink and kind of just turn on the faucet. It doesn't have to be, you're not cooking it. You don't want it hot water, just kind of dripping on that, and it's kind of being submerged under water. You're supposed to change the water out about every 20 minutes. So having it in that sink full of water, and then changing that water out, because again, the water's going to cool down because you put something really cold into warm water. So the water's going to cool off, and so you're going to need to put new water in it. So doing that, also taking, if you have a product, dividing it into smaller amounts, and just thawing a smaller piece instead of this big huge piece of meat is good too. Another way to thaw is in the microwave. Typically your microwave has a defrost setting, so looking at your manufacturer's instructions for your microwave and thawing your foods that way. And then the fourth way to thaw your meat is during the cooking process. So actually putting it on the stove and cooking it that way. And it will slowly defrost as you're cooking it. So the cooking time is going to take longer, because instead of normally you put refrigerated food in there that's 41 degrees, now you're putting something that's frozen, which is 0 degrees. So it's definitely going to take you longer to cook it, but that is a proper way to actually thaw it too. So those are the 4 safe ways. We do not want you thawing stuff at room temperature, just sitting out on the counter, even just sitting in the sink with no water or anything. Again, I know you've done it that way. I know your parents or grandparents have done it that way. But again, reminder, we've learned a lot about food safety over the past 20 years. And unfortunately, people had to get, and some people unfortunately even died to help us learn the things that we know. So the third step of your food safety basics is cook. So I've already talked in the first part of the hour about using your food thermometer. So again, just making sure that you've cooked it to the minimum internal temperature. So that 135 for hot holding foods like your buffet foods, 145 for your fish, your steaks, your chops, your 155 for your ground meat, your ground beef, and 165 for any of your poultry products, or any of those kind of casseroles that have multiple ingredients, or something that's like stuffed, So those are the things that you need to cook. Those are the temperatures that you need to cook it to. And then the last one is separate, okay? We talked about that when we talked about going to the grocery store and using our bags to put our refrigerated meat in, because you want to keep your raw foods separate from your ready-to-eat foods. Using different cutting boards, I've already mentioned that. Using different knives. So even if I've got a different cutting board, I don't want to take my knife I just cut my chicken with, grab a paper towel and just kind of wipe it, and then cool, it's clean. No, that's not clean. You actually have to put soap and water and clean that knife, or get a different knife. If you have different colored cutting boards for the different things that your food products that you're doing, they'll sell you a different set of knives that each have a different colorful handle. You can do it that way too, however you want to do. When you're putting food on the grill, usually you take your raw food out on a plate, stick it on the grill. You want to get rid of that plate. You can either go clean it, go put it in the dishwasher, but you're not going to use that same plate that held your raw food to carry your fresh, just finished cooked food back inside. Also, same thing with your tongs. You're not going to use the same tongs that you put your raw meat on the grill with to take the fresh meat off. Any of the bacteria that was sitting on those tongs are now back on your meat, and it could cause a problem there, okay? Making sure that you are shopping safely and that you are cooking safely, you're separating safely. All of these things is about being safe. When you are storing things, I mentioned different ways that you can store in your refrigerator. You typically store your ready-to-eat stuff at the top, And then those different temperatures, that's how you store it in your refrigerator, with the highest temperature down in the bottom. So my fresh, ready to eat, maybe a cake for a birthday, is going to be at that top right there, along with my fresh fruits and veggies. Then I'm going to have that 145 degree temperature food. Maybe I've got my fish there. Then the next shelf, I'm going to have my ground beef products. And then that last shelf, I'm going to have my ground poultry products, or my poultry products in general, because I want to keep these temperatures away from each other. Now, if you have them next to each other, that's okay, because bacteria doesn't jump sideways. But you don't want to put your raw poultry products that are supposed to be cooked at 165 above your fish product that's supposed to be cooked to 145, because you got the juice from the chicken sometimes likes to leak and drip. And if you drip salmonella down onto your fish, I'm only cooking this fish to 145 degrees. Salmonella in poultry needs to be cooked to 165 in order to kill it. So again, keeping them separate, because I know you don't have 4 different shelves probably in your refrigerator, but keeping them separate, don't having them all touching either, just separating them near each other and keeping your raw products, no matter what raw it is, away from your ready to eat. So in different shelves. And cleaning up your area is important too. But when you are looking around your kitchen, we actually have, I've got a smaller form for this, but this is my food safety audit poster right here. And this is just something simple that we can give people. Again, I have a smaller format that I can give you, and it asks you questions, and you just say no or yes. And then it tells you what actions you need to take. So, if it just asks, do you have a refrigerator thermometer? No or yes. It says buy one. Put it in your refrigerator. Do you have food in used plastic bags? You don't want to put food in a plastic bag that's already been used. You want to take it out of there. Are you storing food with your cleaning supplies? Do you have your cleaning products that you clean your kitchen in the same pantry that you store food products? We want to keep cleaning products separate for the food products. When you are storing your food, or you are storing items, a lot of us have these little kitchen gadgets we buy, or the little buckets. We put our cereal in, we put our flour in, sugar in, different things like that. You need a label on these things. You might be able to tell your cereal, but if you have flour next to sugar, next to baking soda, next to baking powder, next to pancake mix, they all look the exact same. So you need a label on it to know what it is. And not even just so you know. You might know the one with the red top is the flour. But does everyone else in your house know that? Do your children, who might cook every once in a while, do they know the difference? So keeping a label and making sure that whatever's in that container actually matches the label. When we teach our food safety class to restaurants, employees, we actually have a white powder activity. So we give them, we break them up into groups, and we give them 5 bags of white powder. Now, they are not allowed to open them and taste them or smell them or anything like that for safety purposes, because it could have something in here that is a cleaner, and you don't want them, ingesting a cleaner. So the ones here I have here are sugar, cornstarch, pancake mix, baking soda, and something that's known as Barkeeper's Friend. It's a brand name. So again, you have certain products that you cook with, certain things that you clean with, and some of these are completely different. But looking at all these powders right here, the only thing that really looks different, the baking soda is a little bit whiter, and the sugar naturally is a little bit thicker of a grain. But we have people that get sugar and salt mixed up all the time, because again, they're not allowed to taste the bag for safety purposes, as well as for sanitary purposes. You don't want somebody in a restaurant having to stick their finger in the thing of sugar or the thing of pancake mix, tasting it in order to know what it is. I don't want anybody sticking their finger in any of my food. I want as little contact as possible. I want them to wear gloves, or I want them to use tongs, deli sheets, something. I don't want hand contact on my food unless it's something that requires it. So making sure you have everything labeled appropriately. Making sure that you talk to your family. We have these things again at my office. The Fight Back organization, I believe it's fightback.org, and back is spelled BAC for bacteria. We have little stuffed animals of little bacteria. I believe this one is a flesh-eating disease. So I have some that are salmonella, and I've got norovirus and whatever else. But I use these when I go into the schools to talk to kids about germs. So I don't use kind of the big words with bacteria and virus, but we talk about germs. We talk to them about hand washing. That's one of the very first activities I do with kids when I go do a nutrition program, is we actually give them some fake germs. It's kind of, again, another little white powder on their hands, and they mix it up, and then they go wash their hands. And I have a black light because the powder I gave them glows in the dark with the black light. So I can see how good the kids have washed their hands. We even do this activity, again, when I teach my food safety class with restaurants, or when I am even teaching it to consumers in the public, is we will actually put fake germs on their hands, and we will go around and show them the germs that are still left on their hands after they've washed. And it's funny because when you do this activity, whether it's with kids or adults, they know what you're going to do. They know that you just put germs on their hands, and they kind of know you're going to test to see how well they wash their hands. So most people, when they go in the bathroom or go to the kitchen sink, they're going to scrub their hands like they're a surgeon and they're going into surgery. But that's not how they typically wash their hands normally, especially children. So we talk to them about this because they're always putting their hands in their mouth for one thing, but they're always eating finger foods. We might go to a restaurant and get a meal, they're getting chicken nuggets, chicken tenders, they're getting a burger, they're getting something, but it's always using their hands. Even the snacks that they eat, they're always using their hands. So it's very important to talk to your children about food safety and to talk to them about washing their hands. Whether it's singing a song, or whether it's just counting to 20 or whatever else, but showing them the proper way. Don't forget to get in between the fingers. Get around the wrists. We have the adults who come in, they'll have kind of a little bit right here, maybe where their shirt is, or their watch is, or their ring, or their fingernails. They don't clean either under their fingernails or around the edges. As we get older and we have more lines on our hands, or if we have a very manual labor job or hobby or something like that, we get calluses, you definitely need to clean your hands even better there, because you're more likely to have that bacteria kind of hanging out in those cracks, crevices around the nails. So cleaning your hands is very important for food safety, but also just germs in general, whether you're concerned about getting sick from a virus or anything like that. So watching what you're doing with the hands. So right now during the coronavirus, we have a lot of people that are using masks. And so they are wearing the mask on their face, and then all they do all day is do this. I've seen news reporters on TV. I've seen grocery store workers. I've seen all kinds of people just adjusting their mask, or they're wearing it down here. Okay? So if you're going to wear a mask, make sure that you're wearing it properly. It's covering your nose and your mouth, and that you are treating the outside of this as being contaminated. It's no different than if you're wearing gloves. You need to treat the outside of those gloves as if they're contaminated. You need to treat the outside of your mask if it's contaminated. So if you need to adjust it, you stick your finger in the inside, okay? And you pull it down there. Okay, or again, using the side. If you need to breathe or talk or something like that, I'm using this. Because if my hands are contaminated anyway, I don't really want to stick my finger up the middle of it. But making sure that you're always adjusting using your straps. Because if you're constantly touching this, you just have germs on your hands. So if you are going to wear a mask, make sure that you're wearing it safely. Make sure that, again, you don't just take it off and throw it in down in your car. You don't take it and just throw it on your kitchen counter. Any germs that might be on this are now on your kitchen counter. Okay? So making sure that you are storing it properly. You know, you're putting it in a bag, you're cleaning it, you're heating it, whatever instructions you were given for your mask. Some of them have, you know, you might have purchased it, this one has a filter inside of it. So I am to not put this in the microwave or to blow up my microwave. So again, just some things to keep you safe, whether it's food safe, whether it's using your mask safely and properly. You want to make sure that you are keeping you and your family safe. And if you're constantly touching your mask or you're constantly touching your face, I mean, that was the thing. I had people using masks and then they touch the outside of their mask and then they touch their eye. So it kind of defeats the purpose if you're not wearing it safely. So making sure that you're doing that. Also, again, today is just about safety. We talked about food safety, we talked about mask safety just briefly. It is summertime, so it's summer safety. We have some information about staying safe in the sun. So if you are going to go outside, you know, riding a bike or something, make sure you're wearing that helmet. Make sure you're not swimming alone. Unfortunately, every year we have, usually it's young children that drown. So keeping an eye on the children or making sure that they're wearing their life jackets. You're not playing outside with water in a thunderstorm, that you're staying away from traffic. You're drinking plenty of water. It's important to drink water anyway, but making sure that if it's really hot outside, you're getting enough water when you're playing outside. If you are like me and you're prone to mosquito bites, using insect repellent is always important. Again, if you're in a boat wearing that floating device, using sunscreen. So we often give people these little sun safety kits. Okay, we have these here at the office, and it's got just some basic information in here as well as some little freebie items. So it talks about skin safety. It talks about, you know, melanoma. It talks about, even has some lovely pictures in here about how to protect your skin. Wearing a hat so you're protecting your face from the sun. Wearing, UV ray sunglasses. Wearing suntan lotion. So again, we have some SPF, 30 in here. We've got some Band-Aids, moist towelettes. We have some Blistex for your chapped lips. Again, using sunscreen is very important. So stay safe this summer, knowing basic first aid if you're out and about with your family. You want to make sure that you're keeping everybody safe. So we're going to take one more quick break to hear from another sponsor. Welcome back to Gardener's Corner. As we wrap up today, again, just to remind you, we talked about safety all during this last hour. We started with food safety, which is, again, something I always talk about on the Gardener's Corner show, talking about testing your food with a food thermometer, talking about keeping your food separate from, the raw and separate from the ready-to-eat food products. We talked about putting your food away so that it's not sitting out growing the bacteria, because this is how many bacteria germs can be on your food after just an hour. They multiply double every 20 minutes. If you are suffering from diabetes or cancer or something like that, we do have some food safety booklets for you as well if you are interested. Again, you can always contact the Extension office. You can email me, Jennifer Brown, jennifer.brown@ncsu.edu, or you can check us out at the Person or Granville County Extension office. I have a Facebook page. If you would like to follow me on Facebook, you can get updates on different programs. You get recipes, see some smaller, shorter videos about different topics. And that Facebook page is facebook.com/PersonGranvilleFCS. Same thing on Instagram and on YouTube. We're Person Granville FCS. On Twitter, we are Person County FCS. So you can check us out on any of the social media outlets, avenues that you would like to follow us. I also want to remind everyone that we are going to be offering a food safety class, hopefully for restaurant food establishment employees in the fall. Typically we do that in September. So if you're interested in receiving information about that class when we do have it scheduled, again, you can call the Extension office at 336-599-1195. And that food safety class, we use the curriculum Safe Plates. It's a curriculum that the North Carolina Cooperative Extension and NC State Extension programs developed, and it meets all the national requirements, and that program is available for all food establishment employees in Person and Granville. We'll be having that in September. But before that, we plan to host a virtual Zoom training, Safe Plates training for food handlers or even just consumers. So if you are interested in finding out more information about food safety, things that you can either do in your home or things that you can do if you volunteer at church, because church are known for foodborne outbreaks. So if you are interested in our food handler or consumer food safety trainings, you can call the Extension office and we'll let you know when we have those scheduled in July and August. Again, this has been Jennifer Brown, Family Consumer Science Agent with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. Thanks for tuning in and hope you enjoyed today's Gardener's Corner episode.